SJ, Stongo, Gary Fife, Joho Jifkados, Mvskoke Radio, Joy Harjo the Wedgeskis. Got a couple things lined up here for you today. We're going to have to do a little telephone dance here, a little jingle here to get our first guest on. But we have a chance to talk with our Mvskoke artist, Joy Harjo, about a program that she's involved with. Now, how much of... how many of you actually know anything about Mvskoke Creek pottery? Now, that's pretty amazing stuff there, but there's only one real practitioner left. And they're starting a mentorship program which would give about 4 people a chance to learn traditional Creek pottery. In our second segment, we'll be talking to Lighthorse Chief of Police, Mr. Robert Hawkins, about the things that his department will be facing, the kinds of challenges that will be coming up with some of the major legal decisions that are going on and the questions that are facing a lot of us around the Creek country about whether or not there will be major changes in perhaps jurisdiction or weapons or things like that. But hang on here. Let me see if I can get a phone running for us. So stay with me. Let's get some going here.
Who am I? Am I native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in 2 worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me. Because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am. And meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Come celebrate Mvskoke culture as we crown our new Miss and Junior Miss Mvskoke Creek Nation.
Our spirits are unbreakable.
The 2018-2019 Scholarship Pageant will be held at the River Spirit Casino Resort in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Sunday, May 20th at 6 p.m. The doors open at 5 p.m. and admission is free to the public.
We are Mvskoke.
For more information on the Mvskoke Creek Nation Scholarship Pageant, go to www.mcn-nsn.gov.
Okay.
All right, a little more mic fumbling here and getting the right buttons pushed. Joy Harjo, we have another change here. Joy Harjo, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We appreciate you being able to talk with us after we got all of our buttons pushed. Someday I'm going to get this board down right and be making silliness here. Okay, now you have not spoken with us for a while. I've been a busy lady from what I understand, but you've got a brand new, unique opportunity for learning coming up with in an area that hasn't been discussed before.
Yes, we're sponsoring a traditional Mvskoke Creek pottery apprenticeship with Scott Roberts, and I believe he's the only Mvskoke person producing that traditional pottery, that came out of the, from way back, from the woodland and Mississippian period.
When we say traditional pottery, I looked at a photo of one of the pieces there. My first impression is it resembled somewhat the Pueblo tribe's pottery, and a unique swirl symbol on the side there that wasn't traditional Pueblo. Can you describe the kind of differences, perhaps?
Yes, our pottery, it does look similar with some of the Pueblo pottery, especially the kind with the black, you see, I don't know pottery terminology, with the black color, but comes from, there's a clay that he uses that comes out of, I think it's Lizette, Georgia, sells it. It's that reddish clay that typifies much of Mvskokean pottery, and it's really beautiful. There's animal shapes, there's, the designs that come out of mound builder culture, our roots our cultural roots are traditionally on the pottery.
The world of pottery is still not something I've ever spent much time with, and I couldn't tell you one from the other. There are like 19 or so different pueblos and many of them do indeed produce a unique pottery. But the creek stuff, I looked at it and it just looked fabulous. But people don't associate our tribes with pottery. It's pretty much the case that you found.
Yes, but we made pottery extensively. I mean, everyone needs cookware and serving bowls and things to, all the things you use pottery for, and also pipes and, as also as decorative art. But as you know, in most of our Native communities, our decorative art always served a purpose. But it's really beautiful. There aren't many. I think might be another person or so, but there are no other people, enrolled tribal members, who are making this pottery. And Scott Roberts urgently wants to pass on this tradition, because if he doesn't, this knowledge can disappear. It's really important, and it's really, a really beautiful pottery. So we want to make sure that it continues, and is developed.
I've seen some work by other artists that would be kind of similar to the pottery, such as some of the shell art produced by Ngofti Scott and things like that. Are there relations there in design and things like that you might see appearing on these works?
Definitely, because the source of those designs is from our mound build, the era of the mound builder culture, which again is the roots of Muskogean culture, extend to the mound builders.
The opportunity, first of all, Scott Roberts is located where?
He's in the Oklahoma City area, and the Oklahoma City Creek Association is also helping with this residency, which will be, the mentorship will begin June 15th, and probably not the whole length or what days haven't been determined yet, but it will be it'll be within 2 or 3 months, and Scott Roberts will be, and it will take place in the Oklahoma City area.
Good. I'm glad you shared that, because I know there are probably a couple dozen people saying, well, I'm interested, but where is it going to go? Do I have to go to Oklahoma City? And that is the case, right?
Yes, definitely in Oklahoma City. And we will work with, first we put out the call for 4 applicants, but we've been getting actually a lot of requests for applications. And we've decided to go from, because it's nice to see that there is an interest, and we're going to go from four apprentices to 6 apprentices, and each apprentice will receive $250 as an honorarium and for travel. And the materials will all be supplied, and including some of that clay that from Georgia that was, the original clay the pots were made from.
All right.
And, yeah.
Now, you mentioned, of course, the clay. The clay is the start. I presume someone's going to go out and dig the clay, bring back enough for the students to work with. And then it will be hands-on from that point, from making some sort of simple object, I guess, up to something a little more elaborate. Is that kind of what the plan is?
I assume so, because there's a lot that goes into the making of pottery, of course. There's the clay, there's technique, there's firing, there's design. We're even looking for a place in Oklahoma City that we can dump a truckload of sand and start a fire. And people are a little nervous about that on their property, but maybe somebody out there will know someplace we can do that.
Now, when you say firing it, that's where you bake the clay and it hardens into the object that you desire, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
Now, most of the pottery and things that I have seen have been like in a kiln, which is a high temperature oven. But according to this traditional method, this will be something different in a pit. Is that right?
I think there's levels of it. Now, I don't understand the whole process. I've just been talking with Scott to get information and see what we need. So apparently there's a process where you fire the, oh man, what is the word? Anyway, there's a process that a fire built in a sand pit is useful for a step along the way, but he also has, you know, he's got a kiln that, you know, they will be using also.
All right. Well, I wonder if our ancestors had a kiln. Hey. Now, okay. Well, let's recap the opportunity here. Now, it is an opportunity, an apprenticeship, essentially offered by Scott Roberts, who is Mvskoke. And it's a chance for 6 citizens now. I presume of the applications, citizens will get priority consideration.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's as it should be, I think.
Yeah.
And those, and they're going to try and find those who are really committed to working, because, say, if you live in Henrietta, that's going to be a nice truck down I-40 to OKC for every class, and right.
Right, for 2 or 3 months. So it's going to be an intensive for a couple of, probably 2 or 3 months, something like that. But and it's an intensive, and anyone from 18 up, you have to be at least 18 years old and up, and you can be 70. But
well, I'm close, but not quite. But they're asking for people who essentially will be responsible students and make that trip, which is no easy task, and stick with it until completion of the mentorship, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
All right. Now, you're taking applications now. Is there a deadline there for that?
Yes, May 31st, and I've had probably. Jennifer Forrester, who is my co-director on this, and I have been accepting applications. We've had a lot of requests, probably about 15 for the application, and we're just waiting for the filled-out applications to come in. But the deadline is May 31st, and you can to get an application. We don't have it up. We don't have a website yet, so you would have to email joy.harjo@gmail.com.
Okay. And, we spoke with Jennifer, last year about her poetry when they were up in Glenpool. Yeah. Amazing person there. Okay, now, we've got the basic information on this mentorship. Now, I understand it's being conducted in partnership with the Oklahoma City Creek Association, as you say, and For Girls Becoming, an affiliate of the Seventh Generation Fund. Now, can you tell us a little bit about For Girls Becoming?
Yes, last year Jennifer and I started For Girls Becoming, which is an arts mentorship program for young women 15 to 25. Although we accepted somebody 14 because she was so good, and she's gone on to, she just got accepted into Idlewild Arts Academy out in California, which is really cool. But we did the first round, and we're still working to help those young women, and we'll be starting the second round. So we just want people to look for that, what this is, mentorship, so that the young women get to work with an arts mentorship in their field of art. And then at the end, we had a really wonderful, fun. I love the event at the Tulsa Creek Community Center, Creek Indian Community Center, where we had a meal, and the girls got to show what they had done during their apprenticeship, and that was great to see. So it's a program that we're committed to growing, and I'll be moving back, but that's that's something we want to grow, and of course, eventually we need a young men's component also, because it's the arts change, they carry culture, and there are a lot of young people who aren't really STEM or athletics, but some people are really, they need, our young people need support in the arts also.
Right, right. I've always been amazed by people who have those kinds of talents. I mean, that's a spark I guess I didn't have, and my spark is somewhere else. But I just always sort of just loved people who could do that, including yourself, of course. Now, for people who are interested in For Girls Becoming, is there like a membership requirement, or how do they go about that?
No, that's no membership requirement, and we will be putting up a website. We don't have that yet, and right now it's the two of us, so we're trying to juggle a lot of things here.
Boy, yeah.
But yes, we'll be putting up a website, and then we'll be putting a call out probably, this fall. We'll be putting out a call for applications for that and setting that, and we'll be speaking to artists and so on, and so that's forthcoming, and that will be ongoing.
Okay, and that's still the same contact numbers and email address, right?
Yes,
okay.
It is.
Okay, well, in the last few minutes here, let me ask you about what you've been up to. I know you don't, kind of like a tumbleweed. You're kind of always in motion and moving and doing different things, and your world of the artistic word and music and all these other things keep you so busy. So what have you been up to lately?
Well, I've been still working on my musical, and called We Were There When Jazz Was Invented, to show that our Muskogean people were part of the origin story of blues and jazz. Then I was just down in New Orleans researching, but talking with Greyhawk Perkins, who's Homa in Choctaw, and I'm going to play on his next album. I've got a book coming out of a play of my one-woman show that should be out this next year, and working with Native poets around the country, including Jennifer, on a Norton anthology of Native poetry.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, so you're going to make sure that your rowdy saxophone doesn't get dusty then,
No, I'm playing away, and
okay.
just keep. I'm working on a new album too, and one of the new songs. This was exciting. Got played on Pearl Jam radio, even though it's not rock. Even though it's not rock, it was played. It was included on an album by Barrett Martin, and he was on Pearl Jam and played it. So I thought that was cool.
Oh yeah, it's nice to see our people showing up in so many of the arts, being recognized nationally, and so many things, different things happening, and just pleased like we're winning for a change, huh? Okay, well, I tell you what, Joy, we'll get out of your way here and get on with our program, but I appreciate you spending a few moments with me. And we'll keep our eye on this and keep us posted on how the mentorship comes along. We may want to put a reporter on that.
That'd be great. Okay, and thanks for all you guys do over there. Appreciate it.
Inga. Okay, Joy Harjo talking about a new pottery mentorship that we encourage interested Muskogean to take part in. We're going to take a break here, and then we'll be back with our very patient Chief of Police, Mr. Hawkins here, and we'll be back with more Mvskoke Radio. All right, welcome back to Mvskoke Radio here on the Brew. We want to welcome in our Chief of Police, Mr. Hawkins, who has been a very patient man this morning. Thank you, sir. Welcome to live radio. We often get little scrambles there where somebody is supposed to be there but doesn't quite make it. But anyway, I'm sure you've had enough craziness happening in your life and your line of profession. So thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
We have a lot of things happening in Creek Country, and we'd like to ask you about them. First of all, of course, the Murphy suit, we understand, is now going to be reviewed by the Supreme Court, and we'll get some kind of answer out of them. But that's a question to be answered by the administration, the Chief's office, and the Attorney General. Is that correct?
That is correct. Everything that's coming down with this everything that is being discussed on the Murphy case is being referred to the Attorney General's office and to Public Relations. They'll have a little more information as to what they can give out. What we're doing on Lighthorse side is just we're working on commissions with other agencies throughout our 11 county jurisdiction, and just preparing the best that we can.
Well, how are those commissions coming along? They seem like a real integral part of what we need to do.
I think that we have done well on getting these commissions in play. I think right now, off the top of my head, I think we have like 32 commissions. I believe that we're still pursuing 9 or 10 more, and then we'll have all the agencies within our jurisdictional bounds.
So does that include counties and cities?
That does include counties and cities.
Did Tulsa say anything about it?
Tulsa, the city of Tulsa is in fact commissioned with us, and they have been commissioned with us for quite some time, and we are in the process of being commissioned with or signing a commission with Tulsa County, and that should be happening in the near future.
Okay, so cooperation is going along pretty good there.
Absolutely.
All right, well, that's good to hear. That's probably the biggest question is what's going to happen there, and of course I presume our chief will answer those questions. That brings up things like people might get pulled over for some sort of traffic thing, but saying, well, you can't arrest me because I'm not Creek, or this kind of thing. That's still something you hear.
We're going to hear that. Like I said, the commissions are going to come into play with this. It's just a matter of knowing, who we're dealing with. Is it a non-Indian? Is it an Indian? The type of crime. So, a lot of things are going to come into play with this, but it's just, cooperation with our agency and with the agencies we're commissioned with.
All right. Well, one more question in that area. We've got a lot of legalities there yet to be figured out, and you're kind of on a holding pattern until that's finalized.
Yes, sir. Everything is still a stay. They've granted a stay in how we operate right now. It's still trust and restricted properties, and until a decision comes down, then we're going to operate just like we've been operating.
Okay, well, when we get some final say, we'd love to have you back to talk about it.
Absolutely.
One thing you guys, your department did was travel out west to visit our Dene cousins on the Navajo reservation to see how they do it. Now we're talking about a reservation that essentially is a part of 4 different states, a huge place. So when you headed out there, what did you have in mind? What did you want to learn?
Well, what our purpose was going out there to see how an agency or how the police department operated on a reservation that size. They cover about 27,000 square miles with a population within that area of about 315,000. They are, in fact, spread out so much that with the number of officers that they have, and from what we understood, they were budgeted for 300 officers. They only have 183 trying to cover that amount of area. So it's definitely an issue for them, especially on when your backup can be anywhere from an hour to 3 hours out, and it's not uncommon for them to have to run code lights and sirens to a call and have to drive 2-3 hours to get there. Oh, and so it's really hard on them, on the officer wise out there, to in response back up and all that. But they also do rely on the agencies, the local agencies out there that they are commissioned with also, the state police, the counties, and a couple of municipality agencies that are out there. And so they have a good working relationship with them.
Sounds familiar.
It is similar, yes.
But it's huge. My gosh, what kind of ideas did they give you, or perhaps notes that you took that might help in covering hypothetically larger jurisdiction?
There is 7 districts that are out in the Navajo Nation. They have criminal investigations, special operations, and then their police department. just merely looking at how they operated out there, the resources that they have. They have some things out there that we would like to utilize on our end, and vice versa. This was basically like a cross training between our agencies. It was something that was very beneficial for both agencies. So we took a lot in. We can take a lot what they have that we can utilize on our end, and they can also take what we have, ideas that we have, equipment that we have that they don't, that they can utilize on their end to make our agencies better at what we do.
Is there some technique or piece of gear that sticks out in your mind that you really want to see happen here?
Well, we have similar equipment. I think to an extent, the nation here, Lighthorse has some better equipment, some better resources than what they have out there. But to say the least, they also have a few things that we would like to implement with ours, equipment-wise. They do have a mobile command truck that would definitely be beneficial for us, in covering areas that, we're having to get into in the future. They also have a Amber Alert system that is in place there to where they can activate it. If they have to put that into play, they can activate it out, and it will go out to every television station, or every TV within their reservation, and then it also will come out probably about 100 miles outside, a 100-mile radius out there, also, so that everybody in that area, everybody in in 3-4 states are seeing, hey, they got an Amber Alert out here on the reservation, and so everybody can start looking for this missing person. I think that would be something that is needed here, something that we would like to implement in, and I think that's one of the big things that we would like to implement in is that Amber Alert system. And we are actually working towards that, but we got a real good idea on what to do and who we need to contact, and to get that into play.
I guess to give an example or perhaps explain it, it sounds like it reminds me of the tornado alerts. Once the Weather Service puts one out, bang, it's everywhere, and everyone can be aware of it. So is that essentially the same kind of principle?
It's the same thing. They showed us, they kind of did a test on it while we were there, and basically they activate it. It sends an alert across the screen, and basically alert, like a tornado alert. Mm-hmm. And it will flash up onto the screen, Amber Alert 4, and then it will give the information.
Yeah, the little crawl across the board.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's good. I understand we've got one here now that has been activated a couple of times.
It is something that we're trying to really get going. There's some things that we need to work on with it to really have it activated, really have it going. So.
Well, I guess I meant statewide and in the municipalities. You see that? Statewide,
yes, they have it. It'll come across your phone, televisions. It will alert it, and that's what ours is going to do also.
Well, these things have proven their worth, I believe. And Navajo had a situation some months back where a young girl was missing and they didn't have it. And they spent all this time looking for the poor thing, and unfortunately did find her in a deceased condition.
Yeah, it was a bad situation with that, and that right there was something that they wanted to avoid in the future,
Yeah.
And so they really got this up and going out there, and it's going to be a good system for them. It really works, and it's something that we need here.
I'd like to see it there, and if there's something we can do, or I'm sure folks here at the Brew will be more than happy to help you with. Now, there are a couple of other items here on my list to toss at you here. Now, first of all, we saw a situation, a piece of legislation that was sent to the governor regarding constitutional carrying of weapons, concealed or open carry even, Remind me of the old days of the cowboys walking around with a 6-shooter on their hip kind of thing, and it was a little unnerving, I think, for me. But the governor vetoed it, and legislators have vowed to bring it back. But what sort of reaction did you and your department have when you heard of this thing moving through the legislature and possibly becoming law?
Well, we by no means want to, keep anybody from their right to carry. We support the Second Amendment, and we feel like that. If you meet the standards and criteria to carry a weapon, then you should be able to. There's pros and cons to it. When it comes to open carry, will it deter a crime? Yeah, possibly. You have somebody that comes in that wants to rob a place or commit a crime, and they see somebody with a gun on their hip. Well, they may think twice about doing it. But also, you're looking at a con to it is that somebody's going to come in and rob, whether it's a bank or a convenience store, or commit a crime somewhere. They see a person with a gun on their hip, then that person just becomes a target, because that's going to be the first one that they're going to be looking at. Mm-hmm. On the law enforcement side, in light of all the shootings, let's look at the Santa Fe, Texas shooting that just occurred, last week. You have a crime scene that's going on, and you have a bunch of officers that are there, working it, and you have somebody come walking up in it with a gun on their hip. Well, there's liable to be an issue. We're going to want to know who this person is, and is he part of this crime, or who is he? So it keeps our head on the swivel. It's something that as a law enforcement officer, you're not accustomed to seeing somebody with a gun on their hip outside of another officer, and so it's definitely it can be unnerving.
Didn't that come up some months ago in one of the small towns here in the state? A guy came in and committed a really vicious murder of a woman right there, and of course law enforcement reacted when the calls went out, and then there were people who did have weapons with them under the permit law, and things got a little nervous as nobody knew who the criminal was, because they saw a gun first and then a person second. So is that kind of what we're talking about?
It is something that we think about. It's something that we look at. Does a person have a license to carry it? And in the commission of a crime, we don't know who this person is. We don't know, are they allowed to have it? Are they a part of this crime? What? Because we know at times that a crime can be committed and the perpetrator will actually come back to the crime, while officers are there. So it's just something that we take into consideration, and things that we look at just for officer safety, for the public safety, and we just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing and we have the right person if we have to do anything with it. Well,
I don't want to rile anybody up, but I personally think the permit and the training and the background check is a good idea. The fact that anyone can essentially put a shooting iron on their hip and wander around kind of unnerves me. Now, let me ask you if a scenario. Now, as I say, I do have a permit and have an occasion where I have carried one. And if I were to be, say, confronted by an officer in, a traffic stop or on the street or in a movie theater or something like that, what should I be doing? What should I be telling that officer, or how should I conduct myself?
Well, for anybody that carries a weapon with them, that has the proper permits to have it, if you are encountered by law enforcement, say in a traffic stop, when the officer approaches, be sure and let them know that I do have a concealed carry license, and I do have a weapon in the car. This way, if a weapon is actually seen in the vehicle and the officer is made aware of it, then everything works out. We'll do a check on it and make sure that everything is good with, we'll see your permit, and then we'll take all your information. Then we'll go back and do, take care of our business. If we approach a vehicle and nobody lets us know that they are permitted to carry it, and we see a weapon in there, well, then we take the next measures. We'll get you, we'll have you out of the car. We'll be running a check on it. We'll be running a check on you. Is the gun stolen? Was it committed? Was it used in the commission of a crime? What it is. I mean, if you don't have the proper permits, well, then of course you can't be carrying that weapon. So, and there are consequences for that.
Right. I guess I've watched Cops too many times where that situation pops up and somebody's got a Glock pointed at them. And
it does happen. We see a weapon in a vehicle and nobody lets us know that they are permitted to carry it. Then it can happen.
Right. Yeah, we've seen and heard of some tragic accidents where nobody knew what was going on essentially, and fatal result.
Officer safety is number one for us, and then two, protecting the those that have the right to carry that weapon also.
So it would be a good idea, say, if you did get pulled over, as the officer approaches, to let them know immediately that you have a permit and there is a firearm in the vehicle.
That should be the first thing you tell them. If you have a weapon in that vehicle and you have a permit to carry it, let that officer know right out the gate.
Sure, and it's easy enough to do, and I don't think it really violates anybody's rights to use some common sense there.
Exactly.
Now, it raises the question now, I guess, when we look at this possibility of, where can these things be carried? Obviously, if you're going to carry one, you probably should have a permit. But say on tribal property, when we've got the Creek Nation with so many holdings around within our districts and things like that, plus the campus. Now, where and when is it possible for someone to carry a concealed weapon?
Well, under the tribal code, under Title 14, it does say that you can carry a concealed weapon on property. That would be on any tribal property. As long as you have the proper permits on it, then you can carry it. The casinos, you cannot. Mm-hmm. If there are businesses out there that say no weapons allowed, well, that you abide by that also. But according to tribal code, in Title 14, that you can carry a weapon with a concealed license on tribal property.
Now, would that include the campus? Now, I understand there are some regulations, laws, whatever, that you really can't. I mean, I asked the question once and a situation came up in our office where this would be a possibility and was told, no, you probably shouldn't.
Well, this is something that we've had meetings with on the complex about, what can, a concealed carry permit holder, can they carry on the campus or not? That is still something that's in the works. I know that in the past, they didn't really want anybody, even with a license, to be carrying on campus. So until we get something, for sure out in policy or in writing, I think that, tribal code says that you can have it, but just for, we look at safety of principal chief, second chief, other executive members that are on campus, and and this really goes with anywhere. You can have anybody come in, concealed carry. Somebody come in and get mad at somebody, and it can go south quick. So we want to look out for the protection of principal chief and second chief and other members, department heads and all that on the campus. So. Until we get something in writing or something that is really set, to avoid carrying on campus unless you're law enforcement.
Right, so it's just basically not a good idea.
Like I said, the tribal code says that you can, but I think that until something is really set, just to be safe. Okay.
Now, has your department run into many situations where you've had to deal with someone waving a firearm and this kind of thing?
We encounter, we have traffic stops that somebody has a weapon in there, and we, of course, go through our process, and they are, the people that do have the weapons in the vehicle are good about letting us know. Now, there have been times that incidents at the casino, where we have encountered a weapon in the car that they had no permit to carry it, and so then we go through our process with that. Checking the gun, checking information on that party. Are there any warrants involved? Just whatever it may be. But as for anybody coming and actually brandishing a weapon and waving it around, no, we haven't had an issue with that. Knock on wood, we don't have anything like that, but we're prepared to deal with it if we need to.
That's good to hear. I guess I don't know whether you can answer this or not, but perhaps refer it to the chief's office. Now, if such a law were to be passed, the constitutional carry, would that supersede state, federal, tribal laws? Well, it is a state law, but
that's just something that we'll have to get together with the Attorney General and just look at everything that will come into play with this. To answer that right now, it would be kind of stepping outside the box. So until that comes, or if it looks like that it's going to happen, then we'll be prepared on our end to handle it through policy or laws or whatever we need to do.
Once again, that's an answer coming from the chief's office, pretty much.
Yes, sir. That'll come down from up there.
Now, you have not been kind of waiting around. Your department's always been in motion, doing lots of new things, and one of them, as you mentioned earlier, was cameras. Now, will we see Lighthorse officers with the little cameras attached to the wrist?
Well, that is something that we are working towards. It is something that I feel like that would be a necessary part of our equipment. We are currently working on a grant through the Department of Justice, and it's going to allow us to purchase body cams for all the officers and allow them to wear it according to policy. Now, we don't have a policy in place for body cameras, but we are currently working on that because that's part of this grant process, is to have a policy in place and be able to show that, hey, we have something that we can work on, that we can follow, and we can abide by. I think that body cameras are necessary. For one, they provide accountability for the officers that are wearing them. Also, it protects the officers towards any kinds of false accusations. Anybody can say, anything that the officer, was, used excessive force or whatever. You get that all the time. By wearing a body cam and you have it going, and you have the evidence showing right there that hey, our officer is protected by by what's shown on this camera. Also, evidence used for prosecution. So there's big uses for it and big pluses on having them. So we would like to get those in play and make it a part of an everyday piece of our uniform. Now,
we've seen in the evening newscasts where there have been situations where they have shared officers' body cam footage. One thing that troubles me is we've seen officers in major metropolitan areas where somehow that camera gets turned off at a crucial point. And just being the skeptical reporter I am, I'm thinking, well, what are they trying to hide? And forgive me there, but that's just the nature of my beast here. And later on it comes back on. It's like, okay, well, it's sort of like the Watergate tapes where they turned it off and erased something there for 19 minutes. Richard Nixon kind of deleted some nasty stuff, but we've seen those things happen too many times, or perhaps the audio gets cut off, or the whole thing. Will you have some rules regarding when and where those things go on and off? Is that still being considered?
There will be the standards for them being activated. Every time you get out of on a traffic stop, you're gonna have it on. Anytime you go to a call, it will be activated, and it'll just be something that the officers will have to program themselves to do, so to speak. It will be it will be a requirement. You will have to do it. It'll be according to policy, and so like I said, we'll abide by policy and follow policy on what it says. It will be turned on every call you go to, every traffic stop. And something that we may look at in the future also is putting video cameras in our units also.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
We don't have any of those in them at this time, but that's something that we're going to work towards, possibly on a grant that we're going to be working on in the future.
I did a ride-along with Officer Beaver, I believe, and was kind of fascinated by his routine and how he responded to different things, and thinking, I wish I had a camera going right now and be able to share that. But there wasn't anything that was crazy or anything. It just like, this is what he did to make sure we're safe. I was good with that. Now, I understand you've got a couple of other new items going on with your department. There's you're about to get perhaps some new office space in a modular building and a couple of things.
Yes, sir. Last Saturday, the National Council passed legislation on the department getting a training building, a facility that we could be able to, hold classes in and other trainings. Our current location in our department, we ended up having to make our training room an office since we have actually outgrown our building. Investigations have been moved back over to us, so we're all full up. So what we're doing now is we were looking at our options, and we put in legislation to have a modular building brought in, or have something built on out there behind our facility. And what we're doing is we are actually going to be bringing in a building. It was an office space building out at the old Okima Hospital. And right now, groundwork is being done so that we can bring that building in, and that will become our new training facility. Very good, very nice building, and it's going to do us some good.
I understand you've got a couple of grants in the works, or applications for grants.
We do. We have right now we're waiting on the award to see if we are going to be awarded this Department of Justice CTOS grant, and that's going to allow us to, get a new fleet of vehicles to, pull some older ones off the road and put the new ones back on. That's going to allow us to get vests for the officers, some more and updated communications equipment. It's going to allow us to get some things for special operations, which we now have in play, our tactical unit and stuff possibly for, more stuff for our dive team and, for those operations, and just other essential equipment that the officers need and will be using for their jobs. Like I said, we discussed the grant that we're working on for our body cams, and we're hoping to have that, get everything submitted and have that ready to go here pretty quick, and then just wait on that. Something that I failed to mention on this legislation that was passed last Saturday was that we are actually getting a firearms simulator to come in that we'll be able to purchase and will help us with our firearms training. It's going to be a real nice thing for us, real technologically advanced for us.
Let me jump in right there. The first thing that comes to mind is a video game. Is that kind of what we're looking at, or talking about that?
It's I guess you can say like a virtual reality game.
Okay. Yeah.
Simulators have been used for years. I can recall back, when I went through my training through the state of Oklahoma, when I got my my state certification, I went through a simulator, and they have different scenarios. You can you'll pull it up. You can order the suspects what to do, whether it's a traffic stop or a domestic or a robbery or what, and you actually are you have a gun drawn and you're commanding them on what to do. Now it's a shoot or don't shoot. If you have to use that type of force, then you can use on the simulator gun. You can use it, and you can actually shoot towards your suspect, and of course you're not. It's not something that is just looked at and is critiqued on. You actually go through it and go through the whole process just like it's a real life scenario. And so this one here is going to be much more technologically advanced than what it was way back when I went through the training, but there's going to be a lot to do with it, and it's really going to help my officers, and as well as other officers that we bring in. We're going to provide training for outside agencies to come in and actually utilize this system. So it's going to not only help my officers, but it's going to help area officers that's going to come in and train also.
Well, it sounds like something our TV crew would love to get a hold of.
Well, we will let y'all know when we have it up and going, and we're going to invite the council and the chief's office and anybody else that would like to come in and see it. And they're welcome to come in, and media welcome to come in and follow us on it.
Oh, great! I might love to try it. I could see myself standing there going pew pew pew. Okay, well, I tell you what, Chief Hawkins, we're running here towards the end of the show. Is there anything else you'd care to share with our listeners?
Just one more thing. We have a safety summer camp that's going to be that Lighthorse is putting on. It's going to be June 5th through the 7th, and it's going to be at our facility. It's going to be for youth ages 9 to 14. We're taking 40 applicants. We've already filled 20 spots, so we have 20 more to fill. What it's going to be focused on is drug awareness, first aid, gun safety, prescription safety, and cultural awareness. So anybody that's interested in attending or having their kids, attend this, can pick up applications at Lighthorse, and they can do this through Friday.
Chief Hawkins, thank you so much for sharing this information and sitting down and let me toss a couple silly questions at you. Appreciate your time here, sir. And you've got some great ideas for stories that I'm sure Mvskoke Media will want to be all over.
Well, we sure will welcome y'all.
Okay, once again, Mado, sir, we appreciate it.
Mado.
Okay, now let's squeeze in a couple of, no we can't, well here's one. Senior Games coming up on the 25th at the complex, check it out. Prizes and breakfast and a couple of other things for our senior athletes. And let's get out of here. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Mado.